Hi guys, I'm Paige.
I'm Monique.
And I'm Frank.
And we are
Sacred Potential.
Where we talk about the overlap of faith, creativity, and possibility.
And today, you guys, we have an amazing show. See this guy over here? Does he look familiar? Well, he just happens to be the brother of Monique Amado. And boy, does he have a story. There's a story, and I'm actually just here just for a moment because I'm not going to be on film during the interview. I just wanted this just to be a time for the two of them to kind of have a conversation and for you guys to be blessed by this story. So,
Miracle story.
Miracle story. So thank you so much, Frank.
Oh, no problem.
And thank you, Bo. All right. Okay, so why don't we just start from the beginning?
Sounds
Start at the very beginning.
Where would you say when this whole story began for you?
I would say probably the whole thing with moving to Asia. And, no. 2008 when the banking crisis happened. And there was trouble finding work. And, pretty much after about 6 months, I had no savings left. And there was, it was just a matter of trying to make ends meet to pay the rent, things like that. And running into long story short, having somebody refer me to this Iranian guy by the name of Serena. He was, telling me just to get to the point of this. He basically told me I could make some good money in Indonesia. I knew it was, basically just being like a courier for, narcotics, but it was like the amount he, was talking about was like $20,000 a month, and it was only going to be for 3 months. So one of the things I was doing at that time was we were renting out apartments, like, it was basically like an agent.
You and your partner at the time, your girlfriend.
Yeah, my
not
girlfriend
you
at the
and
time.
Serena.
Yeah. And over there, you don't need real estate license or any of that stuff for doing these kind of things. So we were doing that like a side business. And so I just figured, okay, I'll do that for 3 months. I'll have good money. I can buy an office, rent an office, get a car instead of having to, be driving around with taxis to, meet people. So it sounded like a good idea, and I, went over there because he told me it was, low risk, and and he even had me fly out there one time to go just to check it out, not doing any kind of work, just to go check it out. And when I got there, I looked around. You don't see any police. There's no cameras anywhere, But it started out okay. I didn't really have any problems. It was, and the money was nothing anywhere near what he had promised. It kept just being excuses and just kept dragging on and on. But it was better money than teaching English, and which I really, wasn't too crazy about. And then until the fateful day in October of 2009, when I was leaving to go and put something at a hotel somewhere, which is basically the way we operated. He would call me. I would take a certain amount of whatever the sabu, which is like a crystal methamphetamine. And I would take it to whatever the hotel and hide it in the hotel room, which was, the way he presented it was like a very safe thing because, you don't interact with anybody or anything. And of course, that day, they had already been watching us, they'd already been following us for a while. And there's a lot of little sub-stories that go with this, but, I don't want to make this into a trilogy, 9-hour trilogy. So basically I got arrested and, the question, I guess, was when did this start? So, yeah, it started back in 2009, really. So, sorry to get off on a tangent.
No.
2006, you left for Thailand.
Yeah.
That was when you left the States.
Yeah. So I was there for about almost 3 years, and, I liked the life there, but, making money wasn't that easy at that time.
Mm-hmm. How long did you end up before the arrest? And once you got to Indonesia, how long did that whole process take in terms of you doing the jobs and everything?
Well, I was there for a while, and it was just I would be there on a one month visa, so I had to leave, go back to Thailand, go to Malaysia, Singapore, just to just for visa runs, which was pretty much the same in Thailand because usually the most I ever had was a 2-month visa, so you're always constantly traveling around, and I enjoyed having a really thick passport with lots of stories of different places I went. But of course, that was another thing that ended up getting lost to the Indonesian authorities.
What was the, because I'm wondering in terms of, because, you're being sold this dream of like, oh, you can make all this money. So generally, the idea of money, it represents, a life, a certain kind of life or lifestyle for people. So when you thought of, this money, what was kind of like the vision that you had for your life?
Well, I mean, I gotta be honest because this is something that, I don't want to, I mean, and a lot of times I always says, oh, because of the financial thing, but I guess my personality type, a lot of things were also because it was, I wasn't really into the whole teaching English thing and sitting, going to a 9-to-5 job, which, I really never have been into. But it was like, it was exciting. You're traveling, you're meeting people, multiply appealing for my personality type. So, I mean, I didn't, I remember coming back one time before I got involved, and I told him, I said, but I heard this is like, there's a, for drug trafficking is death sentence. And he says, well, you're not going to be bringing drugs into the country, so what you're doing is different. You're just going to be, delivering in the country, and you're American. If you get caught, maybe you'll spend 2 months in prison, and they'll deport you. So for me, I'm looking at $20,000 on the one hand, and at worst case scenario, 2 months in jail, and then, I get a free trip to America. That's not quite the way it worked, obviously, but, that was what was presented. And granted, I could have probably researched it further, but a lot of times when you hear what you want to hear, you just, okay, that's enough. That's all you need to know. So.
And where was your mind at this time? Like when all of this was taking place, Mo, I mean, you get arrested and then I don't know if you're immediately able to call someone or reach out to, I mean, I don't know how fast did that process go? Because I'm wondering when did Mo learn of all of this?
Well, I think they learned pretty soon because being an American, even though the embassy didn't really do a lot, but it's like the Indonesians for some reason have the impression that the American embassy, because I guess they've seen too many movies, but so the embassy was involved pretty much right in the beginning. They came to visit me. I mean, I can stay involved, but as far as coming to see me and but other than that, they didn't. It's not like I've had any kind of assistance because they basically give you a form paper. It tells you, basically what your rights are, which don't really amount to hill of beans. They give you a list of lawyers, which you can get. They don't cover any of that stuff. And, financially, you're on your own. Even if you want to, I don't want to go on a rant here about the embassy, but there were some issues that I really found annoying. One was, even if somebody sends you money, you have to pay for Western Union fees and a $30 service charge to the embassy. And this is, maybe it's more now, but that was back in 2009. And then you have to wait till when it's convenient for them to come bring you the money. So, if you're in a situation, it's, but,
and their big thing is, that they can't get involved.
Yeah.
So I just want to say real quick, as far as like the day that Frank, I guess it was the day you were arrested. I just remember because at the time, my mom was here in Berlin and I was in Portland. And I just remember my phone ringing and it said, number unavailable, which right away told me it must be my mom because usually it's a local or, somebody I know. And I just remember as soon as I saw that, just some instinct, just something in me just was like, something's wrong because she doesn't normally just call at random time in the day like that. We usually would schedule when we're going to talk. And she said, Monique, have you heard from Frankie? And just like, I remember that so clearly. And I was just like, no, and she said, because the State Department in Washington called and apparently they only ever call a family if for 3 different reasons. If someone's been arrested, they've been killed, or they've been imprisoned or not imprisoned. What's the other one? Or they've had an accident of some kind, something serious. So, and then she told me what he'd been arrested with, and it just, we had no idea at that time I didn't even know what 5 kilograms were at that time, or still to this day don't, but, in terms of that, and, it was just, like none of, I'm sure Frank didn't either. None of us had any idea what this was going to turn into. It was more like we're just trying to figure out how to, this is gonna get resolved quickly,
Yeah, sure.
And started, trying to find people instantly, family members, people that we thought like had maybe connections or things that could help, and never dreamed it would turn into the long thing it was.
So so you're still probably in this mindset after, the arrest and all this craziness. You're still probably in the mindset 2 months and I'm out of here.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And when, that turned out that was, it kind of came out that was probably not going to happen because, according to him, the reason was because he got arrested along with me. And, there was 2 other guys that got arrested that weren't really, as far as I know, because I got so many lies from him that I don't even know what was true and what wasn't. But, that they arrested myself, him, those 2 guys, and his girlfriend and my Thailand girlfriend. And then they were going to let one of us go and one of those 2 guys go. But those 2 guys said if we didn't agree that both of them would let go, they'd say that our girlfriends were involved. And, for me, that was one of the only concern I had at that time was, it was my girlfriend, because I'm thinking, I don't want to have her, because she wasn't really too keen on me doing this as it was, so it was like to put her in a position where she's going to end up in prison, because, it was actually a miracle that she didn't end up in prison, because I had already told her before, if anything ever goes wrong, nothing. So that was like, and they grilled her trying to get her to, to crack. But fortunately, it ended up working out. I think just basically because the American embassy was involved, so they just, let her go basically after a few weeks.
Okay.
And so I forget where we're going with this.
No. So now I'm just now trying to get to the point ultimately where 2 months turned into.
Yeah, actually, well, I always was thinking it was like, as Monique will attest, from the very beginning, I just already had a feeling about the whole legal process, and it was going to end up being a fiasco and a farce. But it would just seem like, for me, the only option was always going to be escaping somehow, So it was always like, there was always some plan working, and, most of them ended up just being like this cycle that I remember would annoy me, because it'd be like 6 months, is when this plan would, take place. But usually within the last month to, 2 weeks before, something would happen, everything would fall apart, and then we'd start again with some new plan that would take, 6 months. And this was like, year after year, it was always something.
When did you receive a sentence? Did you receive a sentence?
That came in
August 4th the following year.
It was August 4th.
The following year. So you're just in prison.
So basically at that point it was like even just trying to get a trial of any kind. I remember that whole process was like we had no idea when he's going to go to trial, right?
And how many times we got ripped off just getting to that point from the locals and and the lawyers and family members and
and then it was that I just remember because it was leading up to that point, and I remember at that point you were still somehow able to call me, and we were talking about on the way to the courthouse you were going to try to escape at that point. And I remember that was
that was the second escape point. The first one was that was the third one.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind, Mo? It's like, I'm going to try to escape.
Yeah, I was encouraging it. Because I was like, I'm praying and whatever. I was just like, and I was like telling him, like Tony Robbins talks about, like, get yourself in a mindset. Because, I just want to say from my perspective from the beginning, it isn't it. I mean, because of course, as soon as this happened, I started like looking up what happens in Indonesian prisons and reading all these horrific things, and it was terrifying. But at the same time, I was like, he's going to get out one day. We're going to pray. God's going to do something. There is no way that this is going. And also at the very beginning, there was no thought about a death sentence. That wasn't even, it was just a matter of like him being in there and just trying to get him out. Yeah. So it was never, at the beginning, it was just like, that wasn't even in our thoughts of a death sentence, at least not
for me. I mean, I was thinking, okay, these wankers are going to throw the book at me, because I remember in the courtroom, because Serena and I ended up, because he was arrested in a different location than I was, so we went to different courts. And from the very beginning, when I started going to, my trial started, the judge was, I mean, this guy, you could already tell he couldn't stand me. And, and the other guys, it's like, the funny thing is, I mean, it's funny now, or it's funny if you think about this, but and you'll probably, if you do a search on Google for, Indonesian judges, you'll see there's always like 3 judges. The one in the middle will be the main guy. He's like the, I guess the chief one of the 2. The other one, throughout the course, will either be playing with his phone, and then the other one will be sitting there, like this. And this is going on during the trial. So, and then you got your lawyer who's sitting over there, and the lawyer doesn't really, aside from taking your money, usually they have zero, power to do anything anyway. So I remember the judge at one point asking a question of my lawyer, and my lawyer's like, like he's scared to even talk. So it's like, this is the kind of people you got representing you. And I had my this girl that was a friend of ours, or we'll just say, yeah, she's a friend of ours, and she was, I convinced them to let her do my translating, because they had tried to give me some translators that were Indian and stuff, and I couldn't even understand them. So like that was their the people they had for translating. But anyway, so she translated for me, and I'm having a not an argument, I guess you could say, with the judge, who's it's completely the judge and the prosecutor are on one side. My lawyer is useless, and I'm standing there, don't speak the language, and I got my translator, and she says, I forget, I said something, because I was getting annoyed by what she was telling me he was saying. So I told her what to say back, and I said, well, tell him. And she's like, I can't say that. It's not polite. So it's just,
I put that in the script, by the way.
Good. Yeah. So it was just, it's just kind of like you're there. And personally, I feel like my experience with this whole thing has been, if I had known how this was going to go, I could have just relaxed, because you don't really, you're struggling and everything, but it's just you're flailing around in the water, and it doesn't make any difference. You can say whatever you want, unless you got a truckload of cash to come and give to these people. Nothing's going to hit you. Nothing changes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so we got to like this months and months of, I was contacting human rights organizations. This is before there was a death sentence. It was just like, it's trying to get some help. But of course, and trying to contact senators and all that. There's just like, there was nothing. Well, I shouldn't. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
we'll get to who was helpful in a minute. But ultimately then it got to, he was going to have his trial. And my mom thought, because you're thinking in terms of a Western mindset, I guess, or even I don't even know if that applies there, but basically where my mom was like thinking that if she's there during the trial, they're going to have like compassion, and they're going to be like, they see the mother there and how much heartache it's going to cause and all that. Yeah. Well, first of all, she couldn't even go to the court because wasn't it like your trial?
They delayed it.
They delayed it, so she was already back in Germany at that time. But then I just remember when she called me, because she was in Indonesia. She was in Indonesia at that time. She called me and she said, so we've got the result of Serena's sentence, right? Serena's been sentenced. And she said, Serena got a death sentence. And I just remember being like I couldn't even comprehend that somebody's getting a death sentence for this. And I don't like Serena, but I don't want anybody to get a death sentence. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's horrible, but thinking, since Frank was like the small guy in this big thing, I was thinking, well, then
it's
certainly.
It's not even a big thing, really, because like I said,
this is going on in the prisons, and they're running it.
Not to mention, it's like, I had 5 kilos. They made it sound like a big deal, but there's people that were caught with like a container with, ecstasy, shabu, and heroin, and they get 1 year because they paid a huge fortune of money, or less. Some people didn't even. They end up being there in the police station for a while, and then they let them go.
And they're running drugs in and out of the prisons.
Yeah, and the police is involved.
Yeah, they're all involved. They're all colluding with the whole
drug
thing.
police is like, the stuff they confiscate, they burn some stuff that's something else, and then they sell it. And I've some of the other guys I was in the prison with, I talked to, and wait a minute, come to think of it, while I was outside, one of the guys that I delivered to with Serena was the head of one of the police departments. He actually got in the car with us in his uniform, and I was told that he goes, you should see, like after he left, Serena told me you should see him in action, because when in action when he acts in his other his other personality, he's like very brutal about cracking down on drug crime, because he's got to cover up his he's
crazy.
Yeah, so he's got his other persona.
Yep. And so then that was like one day. Sentence. Yeah. So then was it a day or two later, mother calls me again, and she goes, she said, okay, so actually Serena no longer has a death sentence, and Frank has a death sentence now.
Oh, what do you mean? It happened the same day? I didn't know that.
It was I don't know if the same day, but it was within not a long period of time.
How did that change?
Well, we got
only Serena knows.
I didn't even know about his thing. All I know is, from what I heard from the lawyer, was that he paid some money, and that's how he was able. They threw me under the bus, and he got the lower sentence. So that was
Yep. And also, he was, of course, making like he's Frank's friend. He's helping Frank, and all he did was
come to think of it,
switch their sentences.
Now that I think about that, in the beginning, I remember at first when we first started, he goes, he's worried about getting a death sentence, so he can't. I'm going to have to find finances myself to take care of my own stuff because he's got to worry about himself. It didn't even dawn on me at that time that I might end up with that kind of a sentence. But so at that point, I had my mother ended up helping by using her savings, or all of her savings. And for me, I mean, at that time, as I was telling Monique a little while ago, paying a lawyer, especially in Indonesia or one of these types of third world countries, that kind of money was insane, because I mean the income a lot of these people make is they're working for $200 a month. Not to mention giving somebody a big wad of cash like that. So I had told her not to do it, but I guess my cousin had convinced her that maybe I could get a death sentence or a big sentence or something. So he scared her into sending the money. After about less than a month, I get to hear that the lawyers are running out of money and that they're going to need more money. And I already at that point knew there's no more money to be had. So I told the lawyers to stop everything they were doing. I mean, this is my way to kind of try to cut the losses. And I told them to stop everything I was doing until I get an itemization of everything that was the money was being used for. So they weren't too happy about it, but they couldn't spend more because they had I already kind of stopped them. So they sent me an itemization, and it was like they were charging just for the consultation visit in the beginning before I had hired them as the lawyers. They charged $600 for just to drive out to the prison to come meet me. So they were charging every time they come to visit me was $500-600 for emails, $75. So no wonder that the money was burning up quickly. And I never even got one piece of paper from them. After stopping, I basically canceled them and got the rest of our money back, which was I think it's about $9,000, which a big chunk of that got lost to another local person that was supposed to be helping us. But
where did Serena go at this point? Did he just kind of fully get out?
Well, this was another bit of that nonsense that goes over there. That's like they had us housed at the BNN prison. This is before the trial even started. When we were still at the police station, it was the BNN is like the narcotics. Indonesian version of like the DEA. It's like a drug police. Which, ironically, they're the biggest. They're the biggest drug agency mafia that you're going to find over. So
and they're running they're
running
the law.
Basically,
they're the law.
Yeah, basically that's what I was told by the embassy too, is in that document that they gave us where they tell us our rights and everything like that. At the very end, after they tell you everything, then it says, but the police have the final say so no matter what, if everything points to yes and they say no, it's no. So
and you told me that there was a point where you said something about, wait a minute, what about my rights? And they said, in Indonesia you have no rights.
Oh yeah, that's basically what. Yeah, the embassy. This is from the embassy. This isn't the Indonesia. This is the embassy.
Okay.
Wow. So, so basically at that time, even when I was going to court, I started thinking. I knew that just the way I described the judges and everything were. And the attitude, it was kind of like I already knew they're going to throw the book at me. But I'm thinking, in Western years, I'm thinking like maybe 8 years, 10 years for me, that would be insane, But so when it came out, death sentence, I was, I felt the sinking in my stomach, but I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction. So I kind of just took it. I mean, there's some pictures that you can probably find online where I'm leaving the courtroom, still joking around with the people. But of course, I tried to tell the reporters, a lot of reporters outside, and I started talking about the corruption, the money they were asking for, and all these different things, which I haven't even talked about here. But it was like that was one of the issues. I can't expect to have a lower sentence if I don't pay money. That was one of the things that was told to me by my lawyers, and but none of it ever reached the papers because from what I was told by my lawyer, the way the whole thing operates, because I was kind of on a friendly basis with her, and she would tell me things because she was one of the few people that spoke English, is that when a story comes up about about the judges of the court, the reporters will now use that as a tool to get money. So what they do is they go to the judge and kind of blackmail the judge into paying so that they don't print the story. So that's why, I guess somehow some kind of deal must have gotten done, because nothing I ever said. Oh wait, the one thing that was reported about the trial was because every time I had to go to the court, I had to go with white tuxedo shirt and black pants. And of course on the sentencing day, the girl that used to bring me she would wash the clothes and bring it to me at the court, she got stuck at traffic, so I was wearing a t-shirt, so she didn't have time to bring. So the thing about my death sentence is how I didn't have any respect for the court because I'm wearing a t-shirt, So they're very, very, their focus is on superficial things, but not on, their justice of their system.
It's almost like it's almost like it's a business.
It's like a total facade for what's really
exactly.
going on.
Well, I came to the conclusion it's like the whole Indonesian economy, because corruption is like very ingrained, and it's almost like there's like two economies going. There's a normal one, and then you got the corruption one that's layered over the top of it. Right. And it's just like it's part of life over there. That's what what I've seen many times, and people admit. So it's just the culture.
And also there, it's just like in mostly in America, people still support the death penalty. It's like, oh, well, if somebody's done something horrible, they should get the electric chair, that mentality. But in Indonesia, they have that mentality about drug crimes. So they see it as you're killing people, you're destroying people's lives if you're involved in that.
Even though they're all in it.
Exactly, even though they're all in it, but they're all conditioned to think that way. So I remember at the time when there was write-ups and things about Frank and different, things. And then there'd be these, I don't know if I would say they're trolls, but just people who genuinely think this way. And they'd be like saying all these horrible things, yeah, he should just die.
But that was Americans.
No, this was
over there too, but that was also an American thing.
Really? Wow. Yeah, well, what do you expect and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, he should have known better, and that's what he gets for being stupid and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And let me interject. I want to say something, because when I talk, I like to not leave anybody off of the target. But one of the other things was when, for me, I was thinking, okay, this is going to be front page news in America, the first American getting sentenced to death in Indonesia. I thought for sure, it was going to be in some publication. But my mother was scheduled to interview at CNN, and then suddenly...
She was?
Yeah, she was supposed to interview on CNN, and then suddenly they called her up and they said they had to reschedule the interview.
Yeah.
And then everything, it was one newspaper, some St. Petersburg Times or something, but it was like a small little story in the corner. But in the whole country, we're hearing about Kim Kardashian shoes and things like that, but, we don't even bring that up.
Yep.
And my point on this is the fact that's like, not that I'm, it was a big deal, but just for the fact that's like, if I'd been in Iran, for sure, I would have been front page, because then we got to go save our guy over there because they want to cause problems with Iran. But when it's, someplace where they already got their finger in the pie over there, the gold and the oil and everything else they're involved in, we got to keep it quiet, So that's just, the way I saw it. And it was, for me, I think it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, and also same goes for human rights organizations. And these normally, publications and things that I would have thought are like all about human rights and stuff. And I would contact all these organizations, and it was just like I'm like, and in America, I'm going to say Amnesty International, because apart from one particular person who was very supportive and was trying to do something, but I think his hands were tied as well. But it's like, meanwhile you've got, they were like having these big campaigns for Pussy Riot or something, who I guess was doing some kind of protest, and I don't even know where, and that was headline for them, for Amnesty. And I'm like contacting them going, my brother has a death sentence for a drug, like, can you, and it was like, yeah, like it was just every time I would try to contact somebody, it was like, well, there's very little we can do. And I'm like, but you have these huge campaigns for these famous people, or for things that are just, I'm not saying that there's not human rights things that they support that I'm glad they're supporting. But other than Reprieve UK, like one of the only ones that actually was in touch with us, was trying to do whatever they could, was, again, the thing is, I feel like to also not underestimate in terms of like knowing the corruption of the system there and knowing like to even get in there as a human rights organization to try to do something, even a human rights organization in Indonesia, like the risk they're taking, and for them to try to Ricky Gunawan, he runs a human rights organization. He's an Indonesian, and he does not deal in corruption. He refuses to and so, he's doing some really dangerous stuff in terms of even trying to address the corruption there. Mm-hmm. But again, because they're working within such a corrupt system, it's like they would almost have to bend to the corruption in order to get anything to happen. Wow. So it's this really intricate mess,
Yeah.
As I listen though because it's like, as I'm listening to the story, it's like the only thing that's like setting in for me is fear. I'm like, was there any, I mean, because I know you mentioned like, you're not going to let them get the best of you. It's like, I'm not going to show you that I'm afraid or this is affecting me. But like, what did you feel in that? I mean,
I was pissed off.
So you were angry. Were you afraid at all?
No, because like I said, from the beginning, I told Monique, even if we got to the point where they're going to take me for execution, I'm still thinking something was going to happen, to get me out of it. So
that's amazing.
Yeah,
that is. Oh, Frank, that's amazing. So you always could see somehow you kind of knew deep down that there was still hope. There was still...
like I said, I always thought it was going to be me escaping, but even after my super failed attempt, that was I always figured there was going to be some way I get out of there. Even at that point, like I said, the one time I was I wouldn't say successful, but I did actually get to the point where the rubber met the road, and that just ended up another fiasco. It ended up getting the crap beat out of me, and so that was like an experience in itself. But even at that point, sitting in the cell afterward, I was thinking about what the next opportunity was going to be. Right. But I figured it was going to be a while, because.
And was it in 2016 when the escape part happened? Okay, yeah, because that
it was 2016. Okay, yeah.
That because I had known a lot already about you, Frank, and I don't know if I had actually talked with you at all by that point. Maybe did I? I'm not even sure.
Oh, with Frank? No.
Yeah. No. Okay, not yet.
I don't even think there. I don't think so. No.
But I do remember, like, Mo would, she would share and give me updates, and then I remember that day when you called me, because I knew about the escape plan, and
because we were praying, for you, during all of this.
And that day, I was standing somewhere, and I think you were crying. The thing is that the reason I don't remember if you were crying is because I know I was. So I'm probably kind of like, and I just remember sitting down and you were just kind of telling me that Frank got caught, and there was just, So, and then, but I think in that moment we were just praying over the phone, just praying. And I think, Frank, the thing that always kind of, when eventually, especially based on the stuff that Mo would tell me about you, and then when I even got to talk to you myself, I was always just so like, how does he remain in the spirit of like some kind, like some sense of joy in the midst of this chaos. And I was always just like, and then just in hearing you now, because you still always had that hope and expectation somehow in the midst of all of this, even having like escaped and getting caught. It's like, well, what round are we on now? We're going to do it again. But you still always had that sense of hope. And I just want to just from here, just thank you, because that was a lot. That just did a lot for me. And I just want to thank you for that.
No, anytime.
Yeah.
And for many, many people.
Yeah.
And
I need one now too.
And also anybody watching, And also from the beginning, for me, it was like, I just was like, there is no way. Like, there were moments where it was like terrifying and scary and everything. But I was like, hey, I've read my Bible. I know about all these miracles that have happened, right?
Yeah.
And I just was always like, Frank, I don't know how, I don't know when, but somehow you're like, I was just like, you are not going to die in that place. You are not going to die there. You're going to get out. I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like, I was just like, I know he's going to get out. For me, a big part of the story of him sitting here now is when I think of all the people throughout all the years that, you know, and this is why now, like, the people that, you know, commented on the pictures and the video and everything, it's like, these are all the people in all the years that have known this story, have been like, we're with you, we're praying, like, we're standing with Frank, and all these people, like, all over the world, people who have prayed and believed and been like standing with us, and like all the, you know, like the emails I would send and all the emails that would come back with like, we're praying for you, you know, like, and even people who don't necessarily believe in God, like the love and the support, and just hearing his story and like knowing us in any way at all, you know, they just instantly were like, we just love this person. And like the power of love and faith and hope is like, there's just, and so during that time when you tried to escape, because that was a long build up to that point, you know, and it was like, it was always this thing of like, they're gonna try this week,
building up with people's
money,
stupidity and money and everything,
money that was having to go out, and just also how God would send people into the equation. Okay, some people, I don't know to this day whether they were from God, but there was just certain people that like they were somehow instrumental in different moments and in different things for him. And for that situation, I mean, I don't know why that all had to happen, but in that time, it was this feeling of like a mixture of like hope that he's going to get out and terror at like what could go wrong.
He's going to get out.
You know, and terror over what could happen if this goes wrong. And to just be like, and so I just felt like throughout all this whole time, I just really felt like, okay, I'm trying to do what I can to get outside help for him in general from whoever, human rights or wherever, trying to contact people, trying to contact the embassy, trying to do this. But ultimately it was like, I really felt like my part also was to just keep Frank in a mindset that you're getting out of there one day. Like I don't know how, but this is not the end of your story. This is part of your story, but this is not going to be your life.
Tell the part of the story where those executions, because were starting to happen, because that's like a huge part where I was just like, what?
Yeah, because that's also when Frank got really like, okay, something needs to happen, right? So just to clarify, there hadn't been executions in Indonesia at that point in 8 years. And then this new president came in, and he wanted to show that he's tough on drugs, especially on drugs, right? So he was like, okay, they're just going to start executing people as soon as he comes into office. So he literally just started like lists of names. Just, you didn't know who they were going to call, whose name was going to be on there. And that was beginning of 2016. And there was these guys, they were called the Bali Nine, and they were at Karabokan prison, this notorious prison. And those guys, they got like, they were the first ones pretty much on the first list. Sorry, what did I say they were?
You didn't.
Oh, you did? Okay, sorry. I did. Yeah, they were Australian guys. And they had been in a drug
I'm
ring.
just making sure we're talking about the same people.
Yeah. Andrew, and sorry, I know the guy Andrew, the artist. Well, anyway.
Well, my only thing about that was that this, just to give an example of the system over there, I don't know if it was both of them or one of them had talked about, or he'd said that, you know, that the lawyers, or not the lawyer, the judges had asked for money so they could not get the death sentence. And this is, you know, so they want, you know, that as a reason to stay the execution. and they were basically told that they'll investigate after the execution. So they had an executed anyway. You never checked into it, and you never heard about it again. So that's, that was one of the things over there. And also, it's like there is no accountability when it comes to the media over there, because I remember there was one point after that where I remember seeing on the news that it worked out good, because I used that as one of my excuses for doing the escape attempt. But it was like there was a thing on the news where they just put a story in there that, oh, the American's going to be getting executed next month or something, the next week or whatever it was. And I mean, for me, it kind of took me, I was like, whoa, wait a minute, because it was completely unexpected, and it kind of ended up being, when they caught me when I tried to escape, I used that as an excuse, why I tried to escape. It was like, well, I was scared because they're going to execute me. And about the thing was, I mean, I'm not going to go into the details of the escape, but when I was brought back in after, a week or a few days, because they beat me up. A friend of mine told me he saw me when they took me from the office to there, and he said he looked like I got run over by a bus, because it was like, they, it was quite an experience. But anyway, so when I was taken back now, I guess I have to preface as to how the escape took place. Okay, I was paying money to go to the dentist, outside, because they don't have any kind of, dental care there. Even outside, it wasn't all that great. But so I paid money to go to the dentist, and I was going regularly because, they have some really weird ways of doing dental treatment. Like if you couldn't get a filling, they put a temporary filling. And I was like, why are you doing temporary filling? Why not do? Oh, because they have to take it out again to see if there's an infection. And this goes on, could go on for in perpetuity. But, so, I mean, it worked out good in the sense that I was able to keep going out. It wasn't cheap, but you'd go out, and then after you go to the dentist, since you're out, they're not supposed to do this, but then, they'll take you to go eat. Of course, you got to pay for yourself and whole entourage to eat. And of course, they're going to eat and have food to take home and everything else too. But so the plan ended up being that I had somebody that was supposed to be helping me, and I'm not going to go into that, but somebody was supposed to be helping me, that we'd go to this particular restaurant, and I would excuse myself to go to the bathroom, and usually one of the guards would go with me. And then from there, I would just run, and then, have this person waiting for me on a motorcycle, and I was going to go from there. So this particular time, when the food came, I waited till everybody's eating, then I excused myself, and the one guy went with me to the bathrooms. And I was good. The plan I had was just to run, but because of my friend told me, oh, you should get some chili powder to put in the eye of the guard. That way, he'll be distracted and you can run. So if I just run, might have been better, but I ended up going to the bathroom first to get the chili powder. And during the time I was in the bathroom, another guard came out. So now there's two guards, but I didn't know there was two guards. So, when I came out, I did the chili powder thing. I see the other guard, and I try to run. And this guy just really quickly jumped, and he grabbed one of my legs. So now I'm like, and the chili powder was like all kind of damp from being in my pocket. So it just kind of fell off. It didn't even have any effect. So I'm struggling with the one guy, and the other guy's hanging on my leg, and I'm dragging him down a flight of stairs. And so finally he managed to get my other foot, and I fell down, and then, they, jumped on me, got the cuffs on me, and, that whole adventure started.
Did they have weapons?
Yeah.
Like guns?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry.
No, just, and I don't know where I was going with this, but I think I was leading into, what was the point of this?
It seemed like you were going to skip over what happened, and because I remember later, once we finally got the embassy to go and check on you, and you finally got out of there, when you told me what they'd done to you, because now when you refer to it, you say they beat your ass or you got beat up. It's like, no, they tortured you. Okay. I don't want to downplay exactly what happened to you. And I remember when you were telling me, and I heard you, like, it was like this mix of hearing your voice for the first time after we didn't even know if you were alive at one point, and me frantically calling the embassy and being like, you have to go down there now. Well, how do you know I'm just like, you have to go down there. It's like, I know they've tortured. I knew it. I couldn't even sleep because I was like, I knew something horrible was happening because I knew that it had gone wrong. And And I was, and when I was calling the embassy, they just kept like they weren't, and I was just like, you have to go down there, like you can't, you know, like almost like they didn't believe me.
Yeah, it's also bizarre that when the embassy did come, they wouldn't let them see me. I mean, you would think, I mean, the embassy has the right to say, you know, they want to see their citizens. They wouldn't let them see me. They made all kinds of excuses that I couldn't come out of the cell because they were, and they'd take me every day to go and, I remember now where I was going with the story, but they would take me every day to go and put some kind of ointments on me to cover up, you know, try to get the bruising to go down. And
mainly only so they could present you to the embassy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
not because
that was the only reason, you know.
Yep.
And the only reason they actually stopped with the beating when they did is because I heard the one guy that was in charge saying, "Oh, stop at the embassy." You know, so it's like they got this fear because they've been watching too many Hollywood movies. I mean, who knows? Right? If they knew the truth, I probably wouldn't be dead. So, you know, anyway, so my point was what I'm getting to about the whole thing. I'm not going to go into the whole, you know, beating thing, but afterward, okay. So the reason was this thing about what took place, you know, as to how, you know, I was going to run and all that. So when they take me for the debriefing, you know, which is, you know, I don't know, about 5 days later, they take me to the office and, you know, I'm going to get questioned now what happened. And from my perspective, of course, they, you know, already wrote up their lies, you know, from the police officers. Mm-hmm. And the first question, I mean, there was like 3 different things, but the ones I remember, the first one was, you know, so when you got to the dentist's office, you tried to run from there. Okay. No, I didn't try to run from there because I waited till we go to the restaurant, you know, and I was going to run from the restaurant. And he says, "Oh yeah, but we can't put that because they're not supposed to take you to the restaurant." Okay, so they have to write down that they put I ran from the dentist's office. Then he says, and he said, "Why did I run?" I said, "Well, because as I had said before, I had heard that they were going to execute me, and that was my excuse." He goes, "Well, how did you find out about that?" I said, "Well, I mean, because at this time everybody in the prison has a phone. You know, it's like many times somebody would call from the embassy. They can't call the prison. They got to call me to go to talk to the people in the office because nobody answers the phone there." So, but anyway, so, oh yeah, but
and all
can't.
The phones are smuggled in, by the way, because, and then then they get taken away, so you have to pay the guards so they get money from you for getting your phone back.
Yeah, it's just one big money laundering thing. Mm. But anyway, so then he says, well, how did you find out, you know, that you were supposed to be? Oh, I saw it on this website. Oh yeah, but we can't say that because, you know, you're not. How are you going to be on the internet? You're in prison. Everybody knows that you all have prison. You know, everybody has phones in here, but no, can't put that. And then there was two other things I forget now, but it was some other things that if it makes them look bad, we can't write it. But if it's like makes me look bad, you know, they can, you know, that the sky's the limit. So it's just, I mean, like I said, the whole system is just, if I had known from the very beginning how the thing would operate there, it could have been a breeze. I mean, it wouldn't have made much of a difference. I mean, except for maybe knowing a different way to get out of there. But for the most part, you could have just relaxed because, you know, it was like kind of like just you're you know, struggling and, you know, spending money and wasting time on things that it doesn't make any difference anyway, because it's just one, you know, even if you deal with one person, they got a person above them you got to deal with, another person above them, it just goes on. It's kind of, it doesn't stop, you know. So it's actually, I'm surprised anybody gets out of there, you know, and many people, even at the end here, including myself, I should have been out 20, what did I say, 27 months or 28 months? 25 months of remission that I should have gotten, and they still dragged it out. I could have gone home right after my sentence came down, but they dragged it out with one excuse after another, papers not being here, somebody didn't sign this, or whatever it was, but they dragged it out. So I was, you know, 2 more years in prison that I didn't even have to be in prison. So.
Well, and also, I mean, we haven't even gotten yet to how we even got to a point where there was even anything to do with you possibly even getting your sentence reduced. I mean, the thing is that, like, it's like there's like miracle, and then there's like super duper extraordinary miracle. You know what I'm saying? Like, because everything, like he's just described, which is like really barely touching the surface, scratching the surface of everything that goes on, is like, so imagine you're entrenched in that system, you've gotten a death sentence, then after, so then that year, they executed 14 people in one go, and then it was like waiting, like it went, like what, because that guy was just like wanting to just keep rounding him up, you know. And then it was like a few months later, the president then was like, okay, next round of people. And I remember because Reprieve UK, the human rights organization, they would contact me and we would be in touch, and I was like, they would let me know, because they would somehow, because they had, as they said, people on the ground in Indonesia, so they would kind of get wind of who was on the list. And I just remember, like, every time the phone would ring, being like, or every time I got an email, like, wondering if they're going to tell me, Frank's name's going to be on it. Mm-hmm. And because the interesting thing is, too, and I've said this, and I'm not even joking, like, the same way he's like, he's like, even if he was walking out for the exit, he'd still be like, wait, I was like, even if they would have killed him, I would have believed that God would raise you from the dead. I am not even kidding. I was just like, all I know is he's gonna be here one day. And but I'm not gonna deny that in those moments it wasn't terrifying, because you're on the one hand, it's like, it'd be like for you, if you were walking out in that moment, like, when you were going to escape, it's like, yeah, I'm going to escape. There's always that little bit, we're human. Nobody's just like, oh yeah, this is going to work, And during that time, they were starting up executions again. I think it was it was in that summer. And I remember waiting, like, getting phone calls from Reprieve, and then being like, okay, so here's what we've got right now. Frank's name is not on the list right now. And they're just like they kept saying, we don't think that they would execute a US citizen. That was like always like this comfort to me, like, okay, there's so many people with situations, like even Indonesian people, that for them would be, but it also seemed like at the same time they wanted to make an example. So there was always that, it was all totally uncertain. And that summer, I remember they were, I don't know, is this what you want me to talk about?
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the story, but so in case anybody doesn't know the story of Elijah in the Bible, but Elijah prayed for rain, and it rained. And then he prayed that it would stop raining. It would stop raining. And anyway, you can look up the story of Elijah. An amazing, amazing man. And I just remember at this point when they were going to do these executions, even though at that point I didn't think Frank was even on the list, but just the thought that, like, knowing what it feels like to be the family member of somebody and thinking about those people and their families and what they were going through, and seeing pictures in the papers of the people that had been taken to the island to go be executed, and their families, and I just was like, there is no way. And I just I just kept thinking about the story of Elijah praying for rain, and for rain when the rain was needed. And I didn't call anybody to pray with me, because I was like, I don't think anybody else is going to believe that this is possible with me. So I'm just going to pray for this myself. And I just started praying that it would rain when they started the executions. They were supposed to execute 18 people, I think, that day, or 14. And I just started praying that there would be such a deluge of rain, that the rain would be so heavy that they could not carry out the execution. I don't even know. I wasn't even looking at the weather. I just was like, seemed like the only possible thing I could think of to stop this craziness. And I just prayed that night, and then finally I went to bed, and then the next morning I opened my laptop because I wanted to see what happened. And literally there was a rainstorm at that exact time. And I'm sad to say 4 of those people were still executed, but they could not continue with the executions because of the rainstorm, and they couldn't, and they said they had to stop it, and they've never started up executions since that time. Because that was the other thing I was praying, there will never ever be another execution. And the other thing I was always praying was that, and I just want to interject a couple things too in terms of the storyline and things, is that when things really started to shift in Frank's circumstances too, it's like we had been praying for years, and but one of the things for me that was one of the most powerful aspects of everything was in the times when it was agony to even leave the house because I didn't want to see people and have everybody being like, what's happening with Frank? Because there's just like, it's so overwhelming. And, you know, I know people were concerned and they want to show concern, but it was just like constantly answering questions it was really hard because I was like, I don't really want to talk about it right now. And getting myself sometimes, it wasn't, how do I put this? I felt like those were the most important times for me to go and, because I sang in a praise band, for me to go and sing and to praise God, because that was the least likely time that I could feel like it. And I believe that in that, okay, here goes me now, but that in that is where that's like, I don't know how to explain it, but it was like to be thanking and having gratitude for things, that haven't happened yet. And that's where things started to shift, not just then, but then like in the years following that period when you were tortured and you tried to escape and all that. In the years following that, I shifted from praying that it would happen, that you would be free, to thanking God that you are already free and that you are here and you are literally here and you are with us and you're free and the death sentence has been removed and you are free and you are living a long, amazing life. Like I would like every day just be like, and then he would call and he would tell me this and this is going on. And some days it started to look like, oh my gosh, you know, this, and then some days it would look like it's absolutely not possible. And I would be like I would just have to just go in a mindset of like I'm like, okay, I heard what he just said, and I'd hang up the phone and I'd be like, okay, but thank you that Frank is home safe, alive and well. And it was 2 years ago. So it'd be great if you could talk about it was 2.5 years ago when they were suddenly, so, okay, wait. 4 years ago, Frank suddenly was moved to the island, which is known as Execution Island.
I got to insert something in that story too.
Yeah.
Because the funny thing was, if I was to get moved to the island, I was kind of thinking it would happen after the escape attempt. But you know, according to the people at the prison, you know, I could have stayed there because the embassy came and everything. But they said after meeting with the administration that I could still go back to my room, and until about a year later. So I didn't get moved to the island because of the escape. But about a year later, I remember I was getting frustrated. Maybe I didn't talk to you at that time, but I got frustrated. I remember this one day I came in and it just felt like it's still prison and I wanted to get out. So it was like, I remember saying, God, please. I said, I'm ready for the next step. And then about a week later, I'm out walking with my friend Neil Bantelman, he's also another story which you guys should look up of injustice of the system up there. But anyway, so I'm walking around, and we're walking around, and there's like, this is the mentality over there. It's like you see stupid stuff all the time. So this one day we're walking around, and there's a cat up on the third story of this like a small cat, and these Indonesian guys, they got like a ladder with a laundry basket on top, and they're holding the basket up like the cat's gonna jump into the basket to get the cat down. So I'm like, I gotta take a picture of this. So I take out my phone and I snap a picture of this, and in the picture, even which I think is somewhere online, but in the picture you can see one of the guys that's walking like I thought it was a prisoner because he's wearing like a tracksuit or like running shorts. So he's walking towards us, and he's one of the head of the prison, the prison security. So he comes over to us and he's like, Frank, put that away. And I had already kind of got this, one of the ways that I kind of like deal with these people was, because I'm thinking he's just a regular guard. I didn't know he was a higher up, So I was like, yeah, okay, don't, and I didn't really take him. I did what he said, but I did it with a kind of an attitude. And, so he went off in a huff, and I thought that was the last of it. But, the next morning, they come to my room, and they called me to go to the front office. And I was still feeling a little bit sick that time and everything. But so I went up there, and I didn't even wear underwear. I just had, my shorts on and a tank top, and I go up there. And when I get there, they already got people on the chain gang to go take them to the island. So, all the stuff that was in my cell pretty much, ended up getting lost. And, some of it I got back through the embassy later. But it was just a complete unexpected, next step, which like I said, when I said the next step to God, I was talking about going free, not going to even a worse situation. And then, we went out to the island, and that was a 12-hour, well, it was more than that, but I mean, the actual trip was 12 hours, no stopping to go use the bathroom or anything. And, but when we get there, they make you do, some nonsense just to, make you, to
humiliate you.
Humiliate you. And I don't know if anybody knows what duck walking is. It's not in Indonesia, but basically just, they got you on a chain gang, and they're, shoving you and pushing you and stuff like this to get you to, go a long distance to get on this ferry boat.
And you're like waddling. You're basically crouched down with all your stuff, right?
Yeah, that's the other thing. You gotta carry your stuff, and but I didn't have any stuff. I left all my stuff there. So so they took us out to the island, and it sucked, especially the first when you're first there, because they got to put you in isolation for 30 days, where you're just in this room with with the people that you got brought out there with, and But once we got out of that, at first it takes a little while. The situation started again where you can get a phone and this and that, and that was okay for about a year and a half. I think it was maybe a year and a half to 2 years, and it was the same thing. Just visitations were very difficult because nobody wanted to travel out there that far and everything. And then there was some kind of a big drug bust in one of the prisons, and there's a lot of things took place during that time, but one of the things was there was this big, I think 1 million ecstasy tablets drug bust, and of course the people that were actually responsible ended up, getting shipped off the island, from what I understand. But everybody else is now going to suffer. So now they cracked down on the phone thing, and things just got really harsh. And there was one point where they took everybody from the prison I was staying in to this other narcotic prison, and that I think was the worst experience there. Was just that, it was like you didn't know how long you're going to be in this cell. I was in with 10 people. They give you insufficient food, insufficient water. The water is, filthy with, God knows what in it floating around. And for me, I have a fast metabolism, so I ended up losing about 30 pounds within a month. I was down pretty much bony. And I remember it's, you don't, because you don't have mirrors, so you're not seeing yourself. But I remember it started dawning on me that something was, messed up, because, I'd start getting, sores from your bones on the concrete where you're sleeping. And so it was just, brutal. That was, I think the worst time out of the whole thing. And, there's...
Do you think that time was even worse than when they had tortured you?
I would sign up for the torturing again to go avoid that. That was like, that sucked.
And you were in with 15 people at that point?
No, it was 10 people in each room, but the whole prison was it was a whole bunch of rooms, but each room had 10 people in it. And they were, there was one guy, I remember that, no, just one guy that I remember that he was complaining because, that's the other thing. So when they took us over there, I had everything again set up in this other place. And I had my own room. I had, it wasn't as free as it was in Chippenham, but I had phone, and I had, it was pretty much, comfortable for that place. And, so you lose everything, but they let you pack it all in your bags, and they're going to give it to you when you get to the next place. So, on the way out, they come in. It was very weird because it wasn't even a certain thing what was going to happen. But I remember that night, looking out, and you see, hundreds of, look like ATF agents, all black with the, flashlights coming and everything. And they come and they take you out. And then I remember the Dr. Diro, who was at that time in charge of Kuning, which is the prison I was in at that time. And he looks in and he said, "So you forfeit everything in the room?" And I'm like, I don't have a choice. No, I don't forfeit it. They're going to steal it anyway. So the stuff I managed to take with me, now we get to the front, they take that, and they say, you'll get that at the other prison, which was a lie. I never saw any of that again. And then, I still had a bag had my Bible and some snacks and things like that in it, so I'd at least have something, when I got there, because I was already hearing stories about, that they're not going to be feeding you that well when you get to this other place. So we get to the other place, and I had my phone hidden on me, but fortunately, they ask you if if you got a phone. And at first I said no, but then I changed my mind because I heard some noises going on. It just gave me a bad feeling of what was coming. So I gave them the phone, and then we come out and they took everything, including the Bible. They shaking everything out, make sure that they got everything. They take any money you had on you, and they take all that. And then they, make you strip down, strip search you, cavity search you, with all this stuff, and then you're gonna get back your, even my glasses. They took my reading glasses. So, so after that, they take you now. You're gonna do your duck walk thing again to go. I mean, the whole time you're duck walking, so it's like it's good exercise for your legs. But anyway, so they take you to the cell, and you're locked in the cell, and it's like nobody knows what's going on because you don't hear. Some people say 30 days, and other people are saying it could be up to 60 days. And the time comes and goes. They, the people bring in the food, which that's another story. Which is, like I said, it's insufficient food for they have an issue. They can't seem to determine that there's a difference in a person that weighs 50 kilos and a person that weighs 100 kilos. They're still going to get the same portion of food. They were giving us insufficient water supplies, and they're saying, oh, well, they don't have enough containers for the water. So, and you can't drink the water from the tap because it's brown and you end up with, God knows what. And, and even though at some point it got to the point where I was drinking some of that water because, it's nothing else. And just to show the mentality, it's like they also had the thing where the guards that were bringing the food and stuff, they had to wear masks and they weren't allowed to talk to us or the prisoner workers. So it was like you had no interaction with anybody. And, there was one guy I remember that was complaining because he was yelling because he saw that, somebody was, wearing his stuff or took his stuff or whatever. And I guess they, made such a fuss about it that they took him and they beat him. And I guess he had some leg issue and broke his leg or something in the process. So, and I saw many times people getting abused and, and kicked around, just not for any purpose, just because they seem to enjoy this kind of
inflicting
this kind of thing. And so it was just like during that time that I kind of had I was already back to reading the Bible and things before that, but it was that time and there. Yeah, it was that time and there that I came to the realization that I wasn't really in there for the drug crime that I'm in there for. It was more for a lifetime of things that, yeah. No, just I came to the realization that it was for, a lifetime of things that I thought I was going to get away with. I remember thinking, I was like, oh, I guess I'm never going to get caught. I'm sure I did a lot of, give me a tissue.
I guess one thing to say to that is, I think about there's people that have done way worse things than you and have never had to go through anything like this. So, yeah,
but there's done things have gotten worse treatment. So, but anyway, so like I said, it was just basically I came to the conclusion that I don't know. It kind of dawned on me during that time because you're in there I was in there for 3 months and you didn't know. I had friends that ended up in there. It was a miracle that I got out. I had a friend, this guy John, and he was praying. And we ended up surprisingly out of the people in my cell. He was in a different cell, but I ended up in the same bus with him coming out. And it was like kind of a miracle because I have friends that were there for 2 years in that place, and it's it sounds bad. There's a lot of people that died. Because I was in good shape and so I survived. But many people that ended up either paralyzed from people that were kind of at least had some activity when they're in the other prison, overweight or just not in the best of health, and then suddenly now they're stuck in a place where they're getting bad food, insufficient food. not enough water, and they're just sedentary the whole, for months at a time. And a lot of them didn't survive,
And you were in there for over 5 months, and that was one of the scariest
3
times.
months.
5.
Really? 5 months.
October, you were there till February.
Either way, it was too long to be in a place like that.
It was, yeah, and especially like he said, because his metabolism is so fast, it's like maybe somebody else that wouldn't have maybe lost weight as quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I remember for about the first month or so, I was still doing, I usually stay up late, so it was like people would be sleeping. It was just, the room is basically just like a short, maybe about, I think it was like 8 paces to go from the door to where the bathroom was. Gosh. And it was like, so I would just walk back and forth there to get some exercise. But by the end of about the 4th or 5th week, it was like, okay, enough of this. It's like, it's just, you're not getting enough, food to even sustain doing that, so that's, yeah. But like I said, it was like at that time, and I didn't have I didn't have any pair of glasses for about the first month because they took my glasses. So even though they ended up giving us Bible, I couldn't read. I had this guy next to me. He could speak English. Was a Malaysian guy. What the heck was his name? I don't know. For some reason, I'm drawing a blank at this moment. But anyway, so he would read on occasion to me, something. I'm not saying I was fanatical about wanting to read the Bible, but that was all there was to, at the time. And it was actually, good because I hadn't read the Old Testament, so I didn't even realize that there's a lot of these stories in there and things like that. So it was actually pretty good. And then when I finally got my glasses, I think I read the thing, I don't know, maybe 2 times during that time that I was still in there. And yeah, but like I said, I think the main takeaway here was just the fact is like, the realization of, I mean, it also gave you time to think about like, past and relationships and things that you took for granted, and one thing I was saying about the whole thing is the fact that it does give you a whole different sense of appreciation when it comes to things like just going to the store, or going out after 4:30, which usually after we got to the island, that was our lock-in time. So it's almost like you're like a little kid that has to be called in for dinner at 4:30, and then you can see out the window, but other than that, you're stuck until the next morning at 8 o'clock.
So you'd only have 8 hours of the whole day where you were out?
Oh, not even because you're out in the morning if you get up early to get out in the morning, and they do some really things like I ended up avoiding this one because they do this thing where it's like they make you go out because they want you to get exercise, and then they lock the room so you can't go back in the room for an hour, and then you go back in the room, and you can go back in the room after that. Then you're locked in again from like 1 o'clock till 2:30 for some reason. It's just so I just had that awakening. That was basically I got out of that, and that's when after that I had that awakening. Then the miracle of getting out of that place back to the other prison, took place.
Yeah. And there was a lot of prayer happening at that time as well. There's always, this is the thing, is in all the things that have happened behind the scenes, there's always been people praying behind the scenes, like whether it's me praying with people or, and then also Paige and I literally in the last, 2 or 3 years, well, especially the last year and a half, we would be praying every week. Like that would be one of the things we're praying for, and we just would be and just watching how things started to happen. 2 years ago was when things started to shift, where you got those lawyers and you were like, I remember when you first told me you were being taken to the courthouse, it was like, okay, here it comes. It's like, and it's like, okay, we didn't know how much longer this is all going to take. And at the time it was really uncertain. But to me, it's like, you've gotten a lawyer on Nusa Kambangan Island somehow miraculously, a place where the only thing people really associate with that is the death penalty, or the fact that there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other prisoners there. It's not just that people go there to be executed. There's a lot of prisons there. And when you told me that, we got this thing with the lawyers going on, and I was just like, what? Like, in the situation you were in, death sentence, on Nusa Kambangan Island, no access to anything. It was just like the things that were happening that were being set in motion. And then can I tell the part about the script?
This is what I was going to actually ask. Like, at what point did the script come into play?
Right. So, so from the beginning of Frank being arrested, everything that was happening, I was like, this is going to be a movie someday. This is movie material. That was before you even had a test sentence, you know? It was just like, this is like the kind of thing people make movies about. And there was a point where Frank had a blog, and there was a point where I did an interview with him because I was trying to get this human rights organization in England, not Reprieve, but another one, International Justice Mission, I think, to do something to help him. So remember, we did this interview on the phone and stuff like that, and then I typed the whole thing up like it was like, I mean, no one ever asked, how did you interview him? But it was like, so I typed up this whole thing so that people could see the story. It was like kind of like this.
Let me interject for 1 second. This is another one of those funny things. So this is like later, somebody, because this was online, I had it on a page online, and then some Indonesian guy that worked for the newspaper just copy pasted it and made it like an article in I forget, it was Jakarta Post or one of those.
One of your blogs?
No, the interview. They just copied it like it was their
interview.
Oh,
yeah. I'm like, oh, wow, interesting. Yeah, they didn't put our names by name or anything. They just put it as if they interviewed you.
Exactly.
Oh, I don't remember. Wow. Yeah. But anyway, so during that time, so we had done that. So there was like all this accumulation of, and Frank's been writing his book all these years. So there was this accumulation of, and I was hearing all the stories all the time of all the horrific things, not only that he'd been through, but things that he was experiencing, to what were happening to other people, and just the things that you lived through, the things that you had to hear, see, be around, the cruelty, it's unimaginable. And but the story, and then you had the death sentence when that came, and it was just like, it just kept getting more and more like, oh my gosh, this is okay. If you know anything about storytelling and filmmaking, and there's this thing called the hero's journey, right? And the more you would see Frank's story happening, it's like, it is like the hero's journey. It's like the only possible conclusion to this is he gets home. That is the only possible outcome. And it's like, because it's like something it's like a Bible story.
Bilbo Baggins.
Bilbo Baggins. And in case anybody's tired of our Lord of the Rings references, but they helped Frank and me get through. They helped him. And so I would often send him Lord of the Rings quotes and memes and like anything to do with Frodo, because I'm just like, this is your Frodo, and you're going to be back in the Shire one day. That's all I know.
Ready for my second breakfast.
Exactly. So I had started screenwriting when I still lived in the States, and but it was always like, this is going to be a screenplay. And I don't know, was there a point where I thought somebody else was going to write it? I don't know. I think there was a point where I was like, we need to get somebody to write this. I don't know. And then I just realized, well, I mean, who has more access to all the information than me? And like, but especially it was also because, okay. So I had started writing it in little bits, like here and there, over the years. And then a couple of years ago, when I had moved to London, I was just like, part of being there for me was like, I just want to be in surroundings where I'm like really focused with the story and the writing and everything. And I don't remember when I had the thought of Prisoner of Hope, but there's verses in scripture in Zechariah that say, return to your stronghold, O you prisoners of hope. For I will restore to you double what the locusts have eaten. And I was like, that is, and there would be so many times I'd open up my Bible and story after story and verse after verse would be about people being freed from prison, prisoners being set free, prisoners being brought home to their families. Over and over, God setting people free. Over and over, stories of impossible situations that were completely turned around, and God completely did something miraculous. And so to me, your story was just like almost like a story they forgot to put in the Bible.
The Book of Frank.
The Book of Frank, yeah. And I remember, so 2 years ago when I was in London, I had already started the script, and I was like, it was getting to the point where it's like, okay, I've gotten maybe like a third of it written, and you know, it starts out when you're a kid, right? Kind of building up the storyline of like sort of like the setup, you know, of your how you ended up, you know, going to Indonesia, going to Thailand and Indonesia and everything. Well, anyways, and I was writing it, and I got to the point that had to do with your escape attempt, and I don't generally have writer's block, and when I was getting to the point where I would be writing any of that, of what you described to me, what they did to you, I just was like, I just couldn't get myself to sit there and relive that, or to go back into that, what that time was like. And I met with a friend of mine, this lovely lady, Teresa, from my screenwriters community in London, and I just was like telling her how I was just feeling like I just really want to talk about like how am I going to work through this to get past this, and she said, well, you know, in films, like some of the best stuff is like you don't necessarily have to see it, you get the idea, you know, like with a lovemaking scene, I don't need to see every gory detail, I get it, you know, and for something violent you don't need to. And I just remember after talking to her, I just was like, okay, I can write this now. I can get past that part and write that. And so I wrote as much as was not needed, I guess. I didn't, you know, spend too many pages on that. And, but I think ultimately showing these things that had happened to you, but then also like our relationship, like, you know, like the love, like it's about what you've been through, but it's also about like our family and us and people who loved you and cared and were like, you know, wanting to, people who believed with us. And anyway, and when I was getting towards writing the ending, I remember I kept thinking, what if I could write the ending? Because I believe you're getting out, but like now I'm sitting here and I have to write it as if it's already happened 2 years ago, when it was like, could happen, maybe, you know, it wasn't. And I was like, because all these years I'd been like, he's gonna get out one day, he's gonna get out one day, he's gonna get out one day, I believe it. And then it was like, okay, now I felt like I'm sitting here on the final pages of this script, and I was like, and I deeply felt like God and all of heaven was leaning over me and going, are you going to have the faith to write it? And I will never forget just being like, you know, because it's like this, like now I'm like, okay, now I'm accountable too. I'm not accountable, God's accountable. But it's like,
putting them on the spot.
Yeah, but it really was like if you can you write it? Can you actually write it? And I just remember as I was writing it, just being like, I don't even know how to describe it, because it was like I was writing something that hadn't happened, but that I could see it as clear as you sitting right here on this couch.
And it is written, and it is, friends.
Yeah. and it was like, and when I had written it, and it was like, I mean, yeah, there were certain things you could see that could, you know, and I was like, it's just so interesting, because what if somebody else had written your story and they wrote a completely different ending? I mean, I'm just saying, you know. But to me, the ending of anybody killing my brother, that was never even, that was like not even optional. That wasn't even, it just was not, it was like, there is no way that's going to happen. And,
yeah, they don't have one like that movie that we what was it,
the Twilight Zone?
No, was it Return to Paradise or what was that movie?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah,
Because you had told me about that story when I first moved to England years ago. And Frank had said, "Oh, have you seen Return to Paradise? Because it's also about like the sisters trying to help the bride." And I'm thinking, like, I don't know if you told me the ending though. And we watched that movie at the time, and I was just like, that movie. I was just like, no. This is not going to be that story, because that story ends very badly. And the sister spends every minute trying to help him, and then she's there and actually sees her brother executed. And like she's there because she wants to at least be there, so he sees her face. And I just was like, no, that is not, that cannot be. And but anyway, and just this apartment that I'm in right now, there was another apartment I lived in last year, and when I moved in that one and when I moved in this one, I told Paige, I'm like, this is the miracle place. Yeah. This is where the miracles, this is where we're going to pray the miracles. They're going to happen through our prayers in these spaces. And we would, so Paige and I, like I said, we would pray every week. We pray, we have our meeting about our business things we're doing, but at the beginning and end of every meeting, we would pray about you and about everything that, is going on. And it just became more and more, that our prayers were just thanking God that you're already out, thanking God that everything's in motion. And so many times when I would just be like, sometimes it'd be when Paige and I are together, sometimes it'd be just my every morning was, thank you, Lord, Frank is home, safe, alive, and well. And I just showed Frank memes on my vision board that I have on a separate little vision board, the Frank board. And I have this thing, and I wrote it, I put it on there like in 2018. It says, thank you, Lord, that Frank is home, safe, alive, and well. He is like living an amazing life, and it was just like, just showing him, I'm just like, oh my gosh. But I remember when I wrote it, it was like, wow, okay, it's on there now. You know what I mean? But it's just like, and then those moments when things would look very scary again, because I wrote that in 2018. That's the thing. I made myself write it at the worst possible time, because that was when you were in Narcotica, when he was lost all that weight. And I was just like, okay, but I'm going to write the thing that's the opposite of what I see right now and what I'm hearing. And
I also love that you and your mom, when you would spend time with each other and have dinner, you would always have 3 place settings. So it's you, your mom, and there was always a place for you.
Yes, like we always would set, so if there was Thanksgiving or Christmas or a birthday or a holiday, we would set the table, and I'd always be like, because I heard this story years ago about this woman who was waiting, her husband had left her, and she was waiting for him to come home, and she believed one day he would return to her, and she would always, every night, she'd set dinner, and she'd set a candle, and as if he's there. And then after years and years of her praying, he eventually came back, and I was like, all right, let's do that. And so we would set the table, and we'd always put out a plate for Frank, we'd put out silverware for him, we'd put his photo right there, and then we would just be like, say grace, and we'd be like, thank you that Frank is here. At some point he's going to be sitting right here at this table. And then over the last especially then as this, so then tell how the thing of how you went to the court and how your sentence got reduced and everything and removed. And
well, that I got to also preface, because I give credit where credit's due. Like I said, this friend of mine, John, we don't always have, there's 2 sides to his story, but I'm not going to go into the other side of this. But as far as prayer, I remember it was after coming back from the narcotic experience, and we ended up, somehow we ended up in the same room together, and we had started doing Bible studies and stuff. And then he said if I was, because we talked about, praying to get a change in, he has, I think it's 15 years, and, but we'll try to get my get out of the death sentence to go, try to go home. And I remember we started, he asked me if I was ready, and, and he got me involved in we were doing Bible studies every night for like 3 and 4 hours, and and he took it very seriously, and doing prayers and fasting, and I'm not a big fasting guy, honestly. It's like, oh my God, that was like worse than the beating. I could have taken the beating over the fasting. So we go on these fasting things, and it was like I was miserable from that. It was like the morning part would have been okay, but this thing of going from morning until 6 o'clock, or oh Lord. So but we I did it. He's I don't know, he could go for several days without eating, but like even after the narcotic experience, he didn't really look much different than he did when we went there. But
wait, I just want to just keep in mind, this is somebody who like every hour or half hour.
Yeah, I have to keep the tank fueled. So anyway, we did that, and it was like, there's like I said, he has some abilities, we could say, that I don't, I can't really explain them, except for there was like, he did things where he would have discussions, like he would be talking to people in the bathroom in the spirit world and stuff like that. So many things though, and he had these abilities where he could read people, and a lot of times it was, geared toward me, which didn't work, wasn't really in my favor sometimes, But anyway, so I saw him, how he, dealing with the Indonesians, if it wasn't for his involvement, that's why I said I have to give credit where credit's due, because if it wasn't for his involvement, the lawyers wouldn't have gotten their job done, because I saw him, maneuver these people to do their job, or doing things that, they wouldn't, because the lawyers, they weren't, drug lawyers. They had some other kind of, specialty or whatever they did. And then on top of it, before it even started, he gave me a figure of what the cost was going to be. And it ended up being right around that cost, what we ended up paying, which was in a place, he got, the deal we got for the lawyers was, there's people that are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they don't get any change in sentences, So, and the deal we ended up getting was two cases, for 200 million rupiah, which is about $16,000 or $17,000.
Wow.
So,
and that's keeping in mind how with that other lawyer, when we started this whole process, they wanted $16,000 just to,
and that was just for 3 weeks of not doing anything except for finding excuses to how to get money.
$20,000 for 2 people.
Yeah,
that's
and then there'd be some other expenses of having to pay for us going to court and pay for different things. You got to, everything's paid. It's like so. And the one thing I got to interject also here is the fact that this is the one thing that's, he pointed out to me, and he, kept reminding me about with dealing with Indonesians. If the whole system, you can be paying everybody, that needs to be paid to get your thing done. Even if you're spending a lot of money, it can be the one guy that's like a prisoner helper or something, and you don't give him a cigarette or something, or he's angry about something, he could just take your paper and throw the whole thing, and it cause the whole thing to go to, crap, and so it's like, you got to be very careful, who you're dealing with, and not take anybody off, because you never know, they could be just the janitor that just happens to be, I don't know, so somehow it can be something that can screw you, so you got to be, mindful of the little guy as well as the guy on top, and a lot of times we got things done by the little guy, because there's no unity. That's the one benefit, is all the departments are like, everybody's like looking out for themselves. So it's like, you'll have the guy that's in charge of the department, and the people under him are trying to do things to get some money on the side, because they know if it goes through him, they're not going to get anything. So it's just, everybody's just looking out for themselves. So in a lot of ways, in some ways it's not beneficial, because of that same thing. If you're trying to get something done, in a normal way, you have to pay this guy, and now this guy has to go through this guy. So this guy wants money, and this guy's going to go through this guy, and it's like so it works. It can work. It's like a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's you can get benefits of it if you handle it right, and then on the other hand, it can screw you. But like I said, he had this gift of being able to talk to people, and I don't know, it's like something I'd really like to have some of these abilities, because he managed to I don't know, like I said, and another thing that started happening was, because he would have these dreams of things that were going to happen. He'd always tell me what was going to happen, and it kind of happened. And he told me that he didn't want me to think it was that he's just telling me this stuff. So he prayed about it, and I started having these dreams where it was like things would happen, like the next day it would happen. Not, how do I put it? It's like not exactly things would happen that that it was, some things would be exact and some things would be like symbolic, but you would see like, certain people I was going to meet or I was going to be called to the office. I would dream about it. I'd wake up and within a couple hours, that same thing would happen. So it was like he prayed for that I would have that just so I would, not be thinking he's just telling me these things. And, and so like I said, and he is kind of a mix of, I don't know, like I said, I don't want to go into, any negative aspects, but like I said, in a lot of ways, he had, some kind of divine connections or whatever it was, he had, told me different things that, how I need to, things I need to do in the church, things, and I don't know, some people might not think it's malarkey, but I witnessed it. So,
So you had started going to the court. So they were okay. So about a year or so ago, a year and a half. So it's 2 years ago, you started having this thing with the lawyers and going to court and everything. And then...
And the lawyers kind of came out of nowhere. It was like we had some other people came, but it's like, and this is just an example also. Prior to these lawyers, we had this one woman came out to meet us, and she was going to discuss our cases with us. And this figure I'm going to say is not abnormal because this is like things I've heard before. But she told him for his case it would be easy, but she told, I think it was like $15,000 or whatever. But for my case, it was going to be $10 million US. So I'm like for $10 million, for $10 million, I could buy half of that country. So, but. So that was just to show you, and it's like, and then in her response, I was like kind of balked. I was like, $10 billion is like, are you high? And she was like, well, you know what your life is worth. That was her response. So, but I mean, like I said, you got all kinds. I had some other lawyers came to me before. They had some, when I was in Chippenham, they had some good ideas, and then they told me, I said, so okay, so it sounds good. So how much is this going to cost? He goes, oh, $1 million US. So I'm in here for selling, transporting drugs as a courier. If I had 1 million US, I wouldn't have been doing that in the first place, and they seem to have no common sense when it comes to, I've been in prison for a decade. Where do you think the money's coming from?
But do you think that's because a lot of the prisoners in there that have been convicted on like drug crimes because they're still running drug businesses from in the prison, and so they assume that maybe you. Well,
they think Americans are all like Bill Gates. Everybody, it's from here. They see Hollywood movies, and I tried to explain to them like, look, even in your own commercials, you see that people living in very nice houses, but you live in, if you go to the average household over there, it's not exactly much different than the prison. Mm-hmm.
So it was about a year and a half ago. I remember when you sent, there was a photo that you somehow got somebody to be able to send us when you were being taken off the island in the ferry with the guards, like on your way to the court go to the court, and that was like, okay, we're in the home run, we're home stretch, not the home run. Apparently, I'm a big sports fan. Doesn't have to do with poetry. I don't know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so they were. I remember that photo, and I started sharing it with people and being like, "Behold, the miracle is happening!" Like, and I remember people were just like, and this is interesting. Nice. Yeah, well, no, I mean, it's like, oh, but it's interesting because Frank and I had, like, he's had the same kinds of things in the prison to deal with people who were questioning him, saying that he's getting out, as I did. Exactly. Almost everybody in there. And like when I would say to people, that's why I got to a point where I just stopped. Like I would say to people, he's getting out. They'd be like, oh really? What's happening? I'm just like, I don't know, but he's getting out. And I would mainly just talk to the people that I knew had faith to believe that, because it's like, I just am like, look, this is, and I just stopped really saying too much. And I'm just like, I just believe this is what's happening. But I remember, I don't know if I want to mention names, but a specific person that was trying to help, actually, a non-corrupt person, and But because he knew the Indonesian system, he just did not see any. It would be like somebody saying they're going to run a 4-minute mile back when. Mm-hmm. And somebody going, I'm going to run a 4-minute. It's like, yeah, but that doesn't happen, right? And I said, Frank's going to be, and everything he was telling me was not sounding very optimistic at all. It was like, like as if the best you could hope for is that he wouldn't get executed. Mm-hmm. And I said, and it took everything in me to say it, but I said, I hear what you're saying, and I hear the facts you're telling me, but I'm telling you, one day, Frank is going to be free, and you're going to see it. I just remember people looking at me, especially people that knew how this all usually goes, looking at me like they genuinely felt sorry for me that I'm so naive. Yeah, delusional. And I almost feel like, if people don't think your faith is delusional, then maybe you don't really have faith. It's like that's the thing. It's like, I feel like that's the thing.
God's like, you're on the right track. You look crazy.
Exactly, because I'm like, well, everybody in Scripture looked crazy to everybody around them.
Exactly.
So Jesus even looked crazy to everybody around him. So it's like, okay, so I'm in good company.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not saying that in those moments it wasn't hard to still say that. It was like almost like, it's like I had to force myself to say it all the more because I was being confronted with someone that totally didn't believe it. Yeah. But I remember at that time, so it was like about a year and a half ago, and at the point when you had started going off the island, it was right before Christmas, I think, 2019, right? Which is interesting because that same year, just months before, you had been in that horrendous situation. Yeah. And then within that year, you're actually on your way to the courthouse to get your sentence changed. Wow. And I started saying to Paige...
Well, no, okay.
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, because that was the thing. They didn't... After the trial, after the appeal...
Yeah, the appeal, sorry.
They don't give you the sentence right then. It could be up to 6 months or more where you're waiting for a result. And I don't remember where the 12-year thing came from, but I remember that was what I was fixating on, because I remember John had said something about 12 years, and it could be more, it could be, so when I heard 12 years, okay, we're going with that. I'm not going with the lower number or the higher number, because I'm calculating, okay, that means if it's, I was still calculating the revision and everything, and I figured, okay, well, that would be go home right away. So anyway, so I went with the 12-year thing, and I remember, I had no problem with sharing that, because I'd tell people, nobody wanted to believe about 12 years. It's like, either they, okay, Frank, like they knew I was, full of baloney. Mm-hmm. And, or because the usual thing is, okay, the way it works is if you got death sentence, if you're lucky to get out of, go to appeal, you can get down to life sentence. So life sentence, and you're still basically just slow death. And, so you get life sentence, then you wait a few years, you do an appeal again, and then maybe you get down to 20 years. And then, because, there was a guy that was in there with me that had he got us down to 20 years, and he's already over 20 years, and he's still sitting there. Mm-hmm. And at that time, this one church person, I'm not going to mention names, was saying, oh, maybe you can follow in his footsteps. Or I think he can follow my footsteps. so it was like, hearing those stories, and then it's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, sure, you're going to get 12 years. And then when the result came out, finally, when I finally got the 12 years, then suddenly all the scoffers is, oh yeah, well, of course you get, blah, 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 because you're American, all these other stupid excuses, which before, mm-hmm. nobody would have dreamed of, and the fact that, one of the annoying things was seeing on the government website when they first posted it, suddenly all these people coming out of the woodwork and saying, oh, he must have been doing, paying corruption and all, and, almost like scaring people that would have considered helping to now, because
mm-hmm.
so no, it's just like I said, nobody, aside from John, but nobody other than that really had a lot of faith in that this, new sentence was going to be, anything like 12 years, because I think there was one other guy that had a big sentence reduction, but it wasn't a drug case, and being a foreigner, because as I like to point out, it's almost like, it's not just foreigners, but it's especially foreigners, where it's almost like they don't want to let you go. It's almost like a farmer not wanting to let the milking cow go or something, because it's like, you're there, and they all have this feeling like, okay, you get sentenced for your prison sentence, But that's not enough. They want to make you suffer while you're in there. That's the other thing. So the only reason you actually have benefits and privileges is because, you know, well, if you can pay for it. But otherwise, if you didn't pay for it, it's going to suck. Because a lot of people that don't have money, it sucks, you know. So, and I got some videos somewhere if I can get access to it.
Some horrific things.
So.
So it was about it was about a year and a half ago that this was already in movement. And then we started, Paige and I said to Paige, like, well, a lot of times I don't say exactly what I was believing for, but I just basically, I told Paige. But, because I can tell Paige, because she'll believe it. Because she always believes. And, but yeah, I was like, I started saying, and also I just have to insert the lovely Kumar.
He's great.
Kumar. Because during the time,
maybe say who Kumar is.
Oh, Kumar is a lovely, lovely man from church and an incredible person of faith. And he was I met Kumar years into the story, but during the time when the escape attempt happened and all that, there was this one night we had worship band rehearsal, and we were in the car together getting a ride to where everybody kind of had to get out. And it was right around the time when this Frank had been tortured, and also I think we knew you were alive at that point, but we didn't know anything about your condition, and it was just very solemn. And we were all in the car, and it was just really quiet. We're driving, it was like there was just nothing really to say, and all of a sudden from the back seat behind me I just heard Kumar's voice say, I still believe that one day Frank is going to be here and he is going to come into the church. And like he just, like, he was speaking the vision that I had, you know, but in that moment, like, it was just like everybody was just numb from the whole, it was just like and that, like, that, his voice always there, and you know, we would pray often. Kumar would pray with me as well, and people at church and people all over the world. That's the thing that's so amazing. It's like all over the world people were praying for you, you know. It's like some people that you've never even met, you don't even know that they exist, and people that kept coming around and coming alongside, and were just like, we're gonna believe with you, we're gonna pray with you. And because okay, so last year, that this was now years later after that horrible thing, and then now you were starting to go to the court and all this, and I said to Paige, like, so last year I was believing you were going to be free by my birthday last year. And even though you were like, yeah, this can take ages for this whole thing to happen, I was like,
You mean last year's birthday?
Yeah.
Well, it should have been.
Yeah, exactly. Which is interesting, because it's like, that's the thing. So,
I think you might want to interject that fact. It's like, really, with the sentencing and the remission time, I was already supposed to be free. I think we talked about that 25 months earlier. So this is just another example of, like I said, they'll drag it out as long. But as I also point out, if you have a new problem, that's unexpressed. You're going to have the new problem immediately. That they don't fart around with that. That's yeah. Sorry, please continue.
Oh no, just that. So then you called me. Well, Mother, I think, knew. Wait a minute. When did Mother know? She must have known to the day before, but she wanted you to be the one to tell me, right? So literally, you called me the day after my birthday, because at this point Frank was able, they were allowing calls like every morning our time. He would call us almost every morning just for a few minutes, and you called me and you go, yeah, so, but the way you said it was so like my brain just couldn't take it in. You go,
what, matter of fact?
No, it was just as if you were just telling me, you know, that there was a cat walking across the sidewalk or something. You're just like, you go, yeah, so, and I go, okay, so what, and you go, yeah, so the sentence, so the sentence is 12 years. And I was just like, and then I was like, another 12 years? And then you go, no, 12 years minus the time I've already done. And like I remember that moment. Like I was just like, oh my god, oh my god. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, and I was like, okay. So my brain was like calculating. I'm like, oh my gosh. So oh my gosh. So because he was arrested October 2009. So I was like, oh my god. So you'll be home by my birthday. And then I was like, okay. So I was like, and then you're like, yeah, but then they have to do this and do this and this. So I was like, okay. So I started telling people, so by next Christmas, this was a year ago, by next Christmas, Frank will be here. And people were I could tell people were still looking at me like, yeah, like they didn't really fully believe it. Like they didn't. But the amazing part was, and then you sent me the picture of the document with the stamp and everything that had been signed, and it literally had been signed on my birthday. So then this whole period, like the last year, and when Frank would call, and it was just like the story kept changing. It was just like 1 minute they'd be like, yeah, it looks like this. Then and then it seemed like this, and it was just like literally every week or every other day it was a different thing, and I would just be like, okay, all I know is soon, you're gonna be home soon. And he was just like, it's kind of like, what's soon mean, what does that mean? And I'm just like, any day. And then I just started saying, any day now, Frank, it's any day now. And still Paige and I months ago, we had already decided, okay, so we already got champagne and we were already having a celebration for your freedom. Like we didn't have a clue when it was actually gonna happen, but we're like, thank you, Lord, Frank's here.
Don't forget my affirmations thing too, because I was doing
that.
I was writing affirmations. Wow. That I was going to be free. I mean, I had planned on at first I had planned on my grandmother's birthday, but that came and went.
That was in April.
That was in April. And then I had planned on, I said, okay, well, I'll be by my sister's birthday. And I remember it was like to the point where I was like, it was like feeling like, what was it, about a week or so I told you about beforehand. And I was like thinking, okay, this is going to be another one where it's like, because I said by the end of July. And I was thinking, okay, and then plus they were saying that, no, the remission's only going to be like, there's only going to be like 2 months of remission off of a 12-year sentence. And I have this thing called subsidiary where basically if you don't pay, like in my case would have been like $100,000, then you got to do 3 extra months. So it would have been like 12 years plus 3 months, but I get 2 months remission. So it's 12 years plus 1 month. So they're talking about, I wouldn't even be out till sometime in November. And, and this was like after they went through the whole thing and it was back and forth and that they can't do anything else. And I remember I'd been writing this thing as I will be free by July, end of July and, that year or this year. Wow. And I remember it was like, I actually got to the point when they said the thing about the November, I was like, I really was thinking about, well, this is going to be, why am I continuing to write this? But I kept doing it anyway. And then sure enough, what was it, 2 days or something before, or like the 21st,
21st of July was the day. Wow.
Oh wait, we also got to throw in the joke on the 19th where the guy tells me, oh, you're going free.
Oh my gosh, exactly. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so this guy comes in, and it's like, I mean, I honestly believe he was just trying to be funny, but he didn't know that was expecting this thing to happen. So he's like, Frank, they're calling you up to the office, you're going to go free today. So I go and start giving away my stuff, and I get my bag ready. I go up there to find out. So where do I go? No, what are you talking about? No, not today. So but it was like I said, I think it was just him joking around. So.
And I remember because Mother told me the next day, she told me this had happened. She told me that day. She's like, isn't that terrible? Somebody would play a joke like that. And then I was like, oh my gosh. And then you called me the next day. And I was just like thinking, oh my gosh, he's going to be like really upset. Yeah. And I said, I'm so sorry about what happened to you. But I didn't know that you knew at that point the next day you were getting out. Because you were like, and then you said, yeah, so I don't think we're going to be having the video call this week. And there's 3 things that you had said. And I was like, wait a minute. And you said something else. And just how like nonchalant you were about that little joke and everything. And there was like a couple things that you said. And I was like, wait a minute. Something's going on. And then my mom, and then the next day, we didn't hear from you. And Mother always writes me like, have you heard from Frank? And I was just like, and I said, no, but maybe he's out already. And so on July 21st, Frank was released. And of course, but I didn't know it because he didn't. So he called us on Friday, and then he called, and I was like, because he usually would call in the morning. So I answered the phone, and we would have these video calls. Normally there was a video call every 10 days. And so he called, and and I was like half asleep, and I was like, him and my mom, and then I saw that he didn't have a shirt on, and in the prison they always have to have a shirt on, and so he was like, so anyway, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what's going on, where are you? So anyway, so then he had to first be in immigration until we got his flight thing and where he's going next sorted out.
Well, that was another fiasco with them also. I mean, fortunately, it was like, definitely got inspired and got people that were like helpful, as far as that went. But, because there's another guy that was there and he's still there now, but his issue is a little bit different. But
that guy, yeah.
So, yeah.
And so since then, you've been in Florida surfing.
Oh, yeah. So that's the whole other thing, getting whacked in the head by this. No, but it was quite a change going from a month earlier where you didn't know what was happening, you didn't know how long I was still going to be there, and then a month later I'm on the other side of the planet in Florida with some great people.
Yeah, some lifelong family friends.
Wow.
Surfing and eating at Waffle House. And shopping at Ross.
Shopping
Oh my god.
Yeah, and that was another thing. Our friends, Andrea and Dennis, and they just at very short notice, I was like, so Frank, he needs to go to America first. Is there any possibility he could? She was just like, okay, not saying no. Let me just figure. We need to. Okay, and like that.
So it worked out good anyway. So I got to go surfing.
Exactly.
Wow.
Surfing and hanging out there, and the bottom line is Frank's here now.
Yes.
Frank is here.
Frank's
Oh my
here.
gosh.
And oh my gosh, and I was also I kept
Paige and Monique
Paige.
on Sacred Potential.
and and also Paige, before we knew when you were getting out, Paige goes, okay, so should we schedule our interview with Frank? This was already weeks and weeks ago, and I was just like, yeah. And also I said to Frank, I kept saying that, thank you, Lord, that Frank is sitting here with me on this couch.
And here he is.
And here he is. And then there was a point where I thought I might have to move out of this apartment, and Frank was. And I go, but I've been saying you're going to be sitting on this couch. It was when he was still in Florida, and he goes, well, maybe it's going to be that couch in a different apartment. I was like, no, it's this one.
But I was just thinking how amazing, as we were standing there waiting for you, I was like, what's really cool, Mo? This already happened even when we were praying all the way back there. We were already here welcoming Frank.
I know.
Isn't this crazy?
I know.
So it's just, and then just to watch you walk through,
I know. And just
crazy.
how many times I have envisioned all of these things. I remember there'd be times in the worst of it, the worst times, and I would be going to my mom's, I'd go to see my mom, and I'd be walking down this path that we used to walk down as kids, on the way to my mom's apartment where my grandmother used to live. And I would be walking, and I would just be like, thank you that Frank's walking down this side with me. And I'd be walking, and I would just close my eyes if nobody was coming towards me or anything, or just when I have to worry about running into somebody. And I would just be I'd be walking, and I would be pretending that Frank and I are walking down the sidewalk together, talking and laughing and stuff. And I would just see it so clear. We're walking around Berlin.
So were we walking like this? I feel like one of the Muppets.
Yeah, no, maybe I was. But it's just, anyway, all I can say is it's all God, and there is no other explanation for any of this. And I just personally, I don't want to speak for you, but I just want to thank all the people that have stood with us, prayed with us, even people who don't necessarily pray or have, say that they have any kind of faith, but they actually believed as well. A lot of friends all over the world who, and I really want to read this now, because this is
what's that?
This is this scripture quote that to me sums it all up. And so it's from the Message version. It's the Message translation, and just the wording is just it's 2 Corinthians 1:8-11, and this is the one I think you took a photo of from my Bible the other day when you were on the balcony.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now keep in mind this was written by, I think, Paul thousands of years ago, but It's as if it was written about this. It says, "We don't want you in the dark, friends, about how hard it was when all this came down on us in Asia province. It was so bad we didn't think we were going to make it. We felt like we had been sent to death row, that it was all over for us. As it turned out, As it turned out, it was the best thing that could have happened. Because instead of trusting in our own strength or wits to get out of it, we were forced to trust God totally. Not a bad idea, since he's the God who raises the dead. And he did it, rescued us from certain doom. And he'll do it again, rescuing us as many times as we need rescuing. You and your prayers are part of the rescue operation. I don't want you in the dark about that either. I can see your faces, even now, lifted in praise for God's deliverance of us, a rescue in which your prayers played such a crucial part."
Perfect.
And so it's just like everybody that prayed, loved us, surrounded us, were there for us, walked across fire for us, people in London at the Screenwriters Festival, people who, are still waiting to go skydiving with us. It's just overwhelming, what love and faith and hope can do. And, so we're just here to say, whatever you think is impossible in your life, it's not impossible. Don't accept anything ever as impossible. Don't let anybody ever make you think that something isn't possible just because it's never been done before or it's never happened before, because this is proof that he's Mr. Impossible made possible. So, yeah, all praise to God.
And I'll just come in just to say,
here comes Paige.
Yes, just wanted to say thank you, Frank. Thank you, bro. And thank you guys for joining us. I'm glad you didn't get to see me crying behind the scenes. Just allow this story just to really kind of just be a seed for your own lives, and just know that all things are possible.
Amen.
Amen.
Juicy! Bye!
that's it.
How did you recognize me? Oh, thank you. I'm Kumar, I presume. Thank you. Like to know.
I just figured out they have long hair. This is How
are you? Fantastic. Fantastic. Paige?
Yes.
Where's my cake?
Oh my gosh. Wait, get together. You guys get together. Miss Ingrid, you guys get together.
Come on.
Come on. Oh, sorry. It's not a picture, it's a video, sorry. It's a video.
I'm going to hold my breath so that's it.
No, it's a video.